Okay, today I'm going to show you how to take cuttings from a mulberry tree. So you're going to need a couple of things. You'll need sharp secateurs, you will need some potting mix or seed raising mix, some empty pots, and you'll also benefit from having some plant rooting hormone. So best time to take your mulberry cuttings I find is when it's dormant. So all we're going to do is find some pencil thick stretches of mulberry plant between about 125 millimeters long. So if I choose some of these ones in the middle, that'll just aerate the middle of the tree. So I'm just going to start by pruning a couple of these back. Okay, so I've chosen to cut that in the middle there. I had a few little branches that were heading back into the middle of the plant. And I really want to open up the tree for airflow, so I've pruned out those branches in the middle. You can see on my cutting here, so we've got about pencil thickness. So what I'm going to do for my cutting is I'm going to cut below a growth point, so I can see a little bud on my stalk here. I'm going to cut right below that bud. Once I've cut below that bud, I'm going to go up the plant until I find some more buds, and I'm going to cut just above a bud or above a growth point. So I'll just cut above a growth point here, and I can remove any extra buds or any extra growth along that stem. So that's about what your cutting should look like. So I'm going to pop some rooting hormone on the end and pop that into some potting mix. We should see the energy come down to the bottom of the plant. We'll start to see the hormones mix with the energy. We'll see a little callus form on the bottom, and then it will start to produce roots as it warms up. You'll find that as your mulberry cuttings sit in the pots and it starts to warm, that these buds are going to start to open up. When they open up, first thing you're going to see is you're going to see some fruit and you're going to see some leaves. So it's really important that you remove the fruit from those little sections of growth, because they take the energy away from establishing roots and establishing leaves in the plant, and they help your mulberry tree to germinate. So I'm going to take about 5 or 6 of these, and then I'm going to pop them into pots, and we'll place them in an area where they are out of the wind with a little bit of a warm base to help them establish themselves as small mulberry plants. So I've just taken this one off just to show you what the shoots will look like. So when it starts to shoot, you'll see these little tiny mulberry flowers which turn into the mulberry fruit that you eat. So they're what you want to remove. You can let them come out a little bit longer so you'll see the leaf, and then you'll just delicately pick off these little tiny fruiting parts of the plant to help your plant establish itself. So this is what our cuttings look like. Pencil size, pencil thickness. In my little pots I've dibbled 3 holes, 1, 2, 3 in each of those pots to put my cuttings in. So what I'm going to do first is I've got some rooting hormone, and you could dip straight into the jar. It is recommended that you don't. If you get any pests and diseases in your plants, you don't really want to be mixing and mingling different plants, different plant material together. All I'm going to do is put some rooting hormone on the end of my cutting. Once I've got my rooting hormone on, I'm going to place them inside the pot. Now it's important you dibble the hole before you start, so that when you put your cutting into the hole, you don't lose that hormone off the end of that cutting. So I'll repeat the process. I'll pop 3 in each pot. Now it's important they're not right beside each other, so if they all take, we don't end up losing cuttings. And we'll just do a couple more on the pot beside. Put a rooting hormone on the end, in the hole. Okay, so once you're done, push the soil in around. And I'm going to place these ones on top of the hot water system, and they'll keep a nice warm base, and that'll improve the rate of germination for these mulberry cuttings. or improve the speed of germination for these mulberry cuttings. So your considerations with mulberry cuttings: you want about pencil thickness, you want to have the top of the plant, the cutting just above a node or a growth point. Down the bottom of your cutting, you want to be just below a node, so that the energy is going to those growth points and the hormones there are going to start to cause roots to be produced. Place them in a warm place when you're finished. Keep the soil damp. You don't want it too wet, but you want it to be damp, so that once the roots start to establish, you end up with roots forming and your cuttings not drying out. If your potting mix is too dry, you'll start to see the stems of your cuttings wither up a little bit as well. So that's how you take cuttings from your mulberry plant.